In this video, I'm going to be painting up this set of Echo-based defenders, the valiant rebel army that took on the Empire during the Empire Strikes Back. This video will provide you a quick and very effective way of putting this entire army onto the tabletop quickly. Note that I will not be painting up Leia or Chewbacca in this video. I actually have a separate video for them in the upper right hand corner. To start painting this Echo-based army, the first thing you'll want to do is prime all the models white. You can use either a rattle can or an airbrush primer like I'm showing here, and just make sure to be very thorough with all the models, paint them white all the way around. After that, I'm going to be using a variant of my splash dash or pre-shading method, which I mix 60% of dark tone with 40% water. After that, I very liberally apply this mix onto all the models, and this will provide some pre-shading. It will actually darken all the recesses while keeping the upper raised surfaces fairly white. Note that for this medium blaster over here, you do not have to paint the blaster with this wash. You just kind of want to leave it white. Everything else you want to shade. When you start working on the laser cannon, you'll notice that the dish of the laser cannon is fairly big, especially the rear side of it, which has a lot of open surface. Because the surface is so big, there could be quite a bit of coffee staining. Now don't worry about this too much. You can try to smooth it out a little bit with a wet brush, or otherwise just kind of ignore it, because the very next step will cover it up. Speaking of the next step, I'm actually going to be applying white dry brushing. Now this is going to be what I would call zenithal dry brushing, because I'm going to be applying it from the top down on every model, as if the light source is from the top of the model, and then as you dry brush down, it becomes less strong, so it diffuses. So it looks like the tops of the models are going to be brighter and the bottoms of the models are going to be a little bit darker. So this is intentional, and I do it in this zenithal type dry brushing style all the way across. And this is the entire army done with the zenithal dry brushing method. Now let's start laying down some color. I start with good old C-3PO, and I use some glittering loot speed paint on him. Really simple, just apply it all over the model. C-3PO is all gold anyway. For R2-D2, his dome is going to be silver, so for this I'm going to be using polished silver metallic speed paint, and I apply it all over his head. I also apply this silver speed paint in these two areas on R2-D2's torso. On these medium blaster models, I paint this cable silver as well, just to create a point of interest. Now for all the exposed faces, you can really choose whatever skin tone you want. I chose about 4 different skin tones, and then I just randomly apply it onto all the models. I use warrior flesh to give them slightly darker looking skin, and I also use Crusader skin or Peachy flesh for lighter complexions, and then I use darkwood speed paint for anybody that I want to look a little bit more ebony. You will notice that some of the troopers are of the Sulistan race. These guys are going to have a peachy flesh face, but their mouth area is going to be warrior skin. I next switched to magic blue speed paint, and I put this on all the lenses of the goggles on every single one of these figures. Most of them are going to have these goggles. Go ahead and apply it only to the lens area. Be very careful around the rim of those goggles. You want to leave those white. If you do overshoot a little bit, you can always touch up with a little bit of white paint. Also remember to paint the lenses of this binoculars with that blue color. I next moved to Pallid bone speed paint, and this is going to go on the tauntauns, specifically on their tusks as well as any of their nails. They're going to be nails on the feet of the tauntauns. Also their small arms have claws as well. You want to paint those Pallid bone. To help me tell the leader models apart, I'm going to be painting the top portions of them in this Pallid bone speed paint as well. It's going to give them that signature light brown color that you see in the Empire Strikes Back. While you're laying this color down, you'll want to be careful not to paint over the belts or any of the goggles and so on. Those are white, so you want to leave those areas white. Just be very careful and go slow, especially when you get close to those white colored areas. I also use this Pallid bone speed paint on the lower portions of the first unit of veteran troopers. This allows me to quickly identify them as all of the same unit just looking at the color of their pants. This Pallid bone color also works really well on any of the pouches that you see on the belts. If you see a pouch, go ahead and paint it in Pallid bone. Next, I'm going to use Ashen stone or similar color to identify the second set of veteran troopers. I'll be painting those pants with this Ashen stone color. For the third unit of veteran troopers, I chose Gravelord Gray speed paint for their pants and boots as an identifying color. You can also use different colored pants to tell the Tauntaun riders apart from each other. For my fourth unit of veteran troopers, I just leave them with white pants. I next switch to Hardened leather speed paint. This is a much darker and richer brown, and this is going to go on all the brittles and the saddles of the Tauntauns. There are quite a few of these, so go ahead and watch this montage to see where this color goes. I'll go ahead and show you where I applied them, and of course this color is a little bit darker. If you don't like it as much, you can always use Pallid bone on these areas instead of Hardened leather. However, what I thought about this color is that it really kind of catches the eye and makes the Tauntauns kind of stand out a little bit more. So I wasn't too bothered that it was a dark color. To also make the leader models and the veteran troopers stand out, I paint the straps of their scanners in this hardened leather color as well. It really does catch the eye. Moving back to good old R2-D2, I'm going to be using Highlord blue speed paint and carefully applying it onto these areas of the droid. On the top, all the panels on the top of his head are going to have this rich dark blue color, and then also on these two stripes on his torso, I carefully apply this Highlord blue with a detailing brush. I next move to the darker speed paint color Grim Black, and this is going to go in several areas. Starting with this midriff area for C-3PO, just go ahead and pull this black color into this area. You'll want to apply it front and back. For R2-D2, he has several areas that are black. You'll want to apply it onto the sides of his back legs right here. I apply some on this upper joint of his middle leg here. And then these areas of his torso and his head. In doing this step, make sure you use a fine detailing brush and be as careful and as tidy as you can. You do not want to overshoot into the other areas that I've already painted with another color. If you do though, don't worry about it. Just make your brush slightly wet and clean, and then just brush over the area with the mistake. Next, you'll want to use this Grim Black color on any of the weapons, regardless of whether it's a CM093 or if you're putting it on any of the blasters. If you have a weapon, paint the entire thing black. I also decided to paint the backpacks black. Now, if you watch the Return of the Jedi movie, you'll notice that some of them have black as well as white backpacks. But in order to make these stand out a little bit more on the tabletop, I just go ahead and painted all of them black. For this medium blaster, I'm also going to be painting the entire thing black. The only area that I will not be painting black is the cable that I had painted silver earlier on. Otherwise, the entire thing is black. This scanner thing on the leader models of the veteran troopers also gets painted black. The binoculars on the laser cannon's crew also gets painted black. Be sure to slow down a little bit when you get close to the blue lens area that you had painted earlier. I also painted this eyepiece area here black, and then the cable that runs between the cannon and that charging unit I also painted black. On all the troops and riders, they have some satchels on their right shoulder as well as these grenades on their chest and their belts that I painted black, and then the Tauntaun's eyes get black. The Sulu stands also have black eyes, so go ahead and pull the Grim Black into their eye sockets like this. I next use some Slaughter Red speed paint for the inside of the mouths of the Tauntauns. I now use some soft tone wash and I apply some markings onto the Tauntauns, basically discoloring areas of their fur to make them look a little bit more organic and more similar to what you would see in the movie. I next use pure red fanatic paint to apply the signature red circle on R2-D2 right here. The cables on his legs are also red, so I go ahead and paint those with the same pure red color. I use the same pure red on some of the cables on the midriff of C-3PO. I make sure to do this on both the front as well as the back of the model. I then switched to green skin fanatic paint and I applied it onto the remaining cables on C-3PO. The next part is purely optional. If you're out of time or you don't want to bother doing it, don't worry about it. But what I did is I used some of the leftover colors on my wet palette and I applied it onto gloves, onto hats, and I just kind of randomized it between the figurines just so that they look different. I also used the leftover browns and blacks for any of the facial hairs, like over here on this trooper or on the leader. This is just to give all your minis some variety and to give them that ragtag rebel look. For the eyes, I used matte white and matte black, as well as a detailing brush and a toothpick. Starting with the matte white, I apply these into the left and right hand eye sockets with my detailing brush. I then use the sharp end of a toothpick, dip it into some matte black, and dot pupils into those eyes, and making sure both eyes are looking in the same direction. You only need to do this on troopers with exposed eyes. The ones with full goggles you can skip. For basing, I used a very simple treatment. I used some Elmer's glue and then this white sand that you can get at the dollar store. Use a very old brush, brush the Elmer's glue all over the top of the base, and then dunk the entire base into the sand. It will end up looking like snow, and if you apply the glue unevenly, it will look like kind of wavy snow, which is exactly what you want. I then finish up by just cleaning the rims of the bases with some black primer. When painting the notch bases, do not paint the notches themselves. You want to leave those bare because those interact with the measuring tools. You do not want the tools to jam in them. Protect all your work with 1 or 2 coats of matte clear varnish. Here are some rotating views of the droids, the veteran troopers, the medium blaster, the awesome tauntauns of Hoth, and the laser cannon. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope this helps you get this entire army onto the tabletop in no time flat. I have more Star Wars Legion and other videos coming up, so make sure to stay tuned.